Hey guys, this one's going to be a subscribers only stream, right? I want to keep it relatively short. In light of the video that I put out yesterday, just to the Discord channel, I think, look, Bitcoin is a good textbook example in terms of its current situation, right? And there's a lot of things to talk about in terms of where it is. Now, I know there's a lot of hype, I know there's a lot of desire, there's a lot of wishful thinking kind of in the space. And, I get it, right? I think in the grand scheme of things, regardless of Bitcoin or not, if this would be any other instrument, the same rules apply, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to walk through a couple of quick things, right? Now, in one of the last videos I did for the subscribers, I talked about how you can kind of map some of these things out, where you get distributions. So, first things first, I talked about the distribution. This was the rocket call. So if we assume a 3, a 4, and a 5, right? This obviously gives us a larger scale 1, right? So one way or the other, if we were to assume that we were, A, B coming down C, right? We've got to look at all that time from 2009, from the inception of Bitcoin through to the high at 1, right? So we've got, 2009 through to the high at 2021, right? And then we're talking about a move from 2021 all the way down to, 2022, right? So we've got like 11 years up and 1 year down, right? And this is part of the main reason that I don't feel it yet in terms of an impulsive move, right? Now, just kind of given a bias, right? That's one thing. Now, if you want to look at longs and it's only longs, then that's fine. It's just me giving my experience. This is what's kind of kept me in the game for so long. Just understanding, what it is I'm looking for, right? So what I've got at the bottom, I've got the COT tool, right? Now, again, you don't need this. We get the kind of numbers printed out every week into the Discord server. So I don't keep this on. This is just for the purpose of showing you guys, what I'm currently looking at, right? Now, at the bottom, we've obviously got this CVD cloud, which is all green, right? So if I just put this in here, there, we got this, basically all green, right? So, there's definitely a level of interest, right? Now, we've come down from the top. This was obviously the rocket call down to the 28. Didn't like the move up, right? We had the truncation just as we talked about. We had the fast move down just to the 40 level, right? Now, part of these moves, the reasons that we can talk about lucky guesses, why I'm saying 40k, why I'm saying 40k when we were there after seeing 65k is we had liquidity at 65k, right? And then we had liquidity again in and around this 40k, right? And the reason that it was there at 40k comes back to this reaccumulation, right? So that's for another video, But these levels, these are not random, they're not lucky, right? They're just understanding what the market's trying to tell you. And the biggest picture of all, right, is now knowing where we're going, right? I wanted to put this into bar replay mode. I'm looking at a couple of things, right? And if I was watching this in real time, it'd be no different to what I'm going to show you right now. So first things first, price is currently negative, right? We knew that we were going to be negative based on the move, up here. The way we moved up, right, was already showing that truncation. This was the call I talked about, from the August 24. I've mentioned in a couple of my posts. Obviously, this was basically saying, we come back down, we go up. This was a 3, 4, 5. 5 would be truncated. We'd see 40k again quick, right? So at this particular point, as we start to ascend up, right, the other drop was coming in. So we ended up having the second drop, right? Now, if you've got this bullish narrative, you're going to say, well, we've had, 11, 12 years up. We've had 1 year down and we're done. We're off to the moon, right? These are the kinds of things that make no sense, right? And like 0 sense in the grand scheme of things. So if we look at what we've now done, right, we've created this consolidation cluster. So when I talk about, option one should have been an accumulation, a long accumulation in this range, giving us, a massive, massive move out of the range, right? Option 2 would take us back into this area, right? This would have been option 2, back into this area, then ultimately back down, right, back into that accumulation range, giving us, massive move up again, right? Common sense. The issue that we had is as we start to break out, right, now we know we can see option 3. Option 3 was basically me saying triple top, right? The triple top move, now this is where it gets a little bit more maybe confusing and fascinating kind of all at the same time, right? we obviously play into this liquidity. Right? So you can see the green cloud. Right? Now, I'm just going to play this forward a little bit, and I'm going to wait until we get to the next. Right? So here's our next consolidation cluster. Right? So at this particular point, we can almost see this as a mini accumulation. Right? Now, this is where, for me personally, I would have loved to have seen this go, further sideways. I probably would have kept my Bitcoin if I'd seen this, going sideways, and this had happened in scenario 1 or scenario 2. I think the reason for me getting out and exiting this was not seeing this option and having a larger scale, what I would class as a B move, A, B down for C, is that move could take another 18 months, right? This is just, again, personal preference, right? So fast forward a little bit, we've now got this consolidation, right? Now, one of the things we've talked about in the last couple of hours is, I think it was in the technical questions, it might have been in the Forex channel, is we've actually got a negative situation, right? Here, after the event, and on this delta, right? Now, what we've got at the moment is we've actually got COT dropping, right? We've got COT rising, we've got open interest rising, right? Now, all of these things, you think, wow, this is, off to the moon, right? Now, one of the things I would have liked to have seen here is I would have liked to have seen a crossover in that, right? That would have given me some kind of comfort that potentially we could have been in a motive move, right? We didn't see that at all. So now we drop down, right? And then we rise up. Now this is again where the next part is, right? We would have been anticipating a move back ultimately into this level, right? And we could have drawn this up here as, this was the optimal B, right? This for me would have been the ideal B as a move, okay? So we start to rally up, right? Now at this particular point, we go down, we've got a better accumulation. We go up and we failed to accumulate, right? So the next obvious point is at this particular stage, what are we doing on both the COT and on the delta? We've got a negative delta, and now all of a sudden, the green, so the buyers on the COT, right, drop, and the sellers start rising. So what this means for me is as the price is rising to a premium, the leverage funds are willing to sell at the premium to the retail traders that are willing to buy at the premium, right? So look at the spike in this, right? Now, this is where obviously we had BlackRock, ETF. This was all, this is off to the moon. We're off to 100K all over again. Off we go, right? Off to the races. The only issue being is we still sat technically inside that B range, right? So again, preferred option at this stage would have been to have come back down here for that move up, right? Well, that would have been ideal. We've got a negative delta. We got rising COT on the short side, right? And at this particular point, there's no real big interest, right? This is still obviously showing, a net negative, right? And open interest from that move down. This is the big players selling off, right? Getting out of their positions. This is profit taking in essence. Profit taking obviously always happens on a counter trend move, right? That's kind of the point of it. So as we are now selling premium to retail traders who are all calling for the move, right? This is part of the reason that my big kind of planning, my big thinking here is that if this ultimately was the top, right, we come down basically for an A, and now we come back up for a B. Now the option at this particular point was obviously B, B in here, and this would have been the ideal scenario. This would have given us a zigzag move. The second option obviously is the running flat move, right, which can take us up, I think, probably just shy, or maybe just over 80K, right? It's around about the 80K level, which means anything from 69 to 80K would still classify us in this running flat type situation, right? So what am I seeing right now as we start to rally up at this point, right, we're still seeing a negative delta, negative delta, negative delta, not a positive number on the delta at the moment. We've got an increased positions, right, on the COT. We've got a decrease in open interest. Now, we start to rally up again, right? Let's wait until we see potentially the next consolidation, right? This is just lagging a little bit because obviously I've got a few indicators on, etc., etc., etc. So, what I'd like to see at this point, right, is you'd want to see now, right, we've actually gone, let me turn this off. Where is that still going? Right, give it this. So what we've actually got there now, right, is we've had this rally through. This is the current previous all-time high. Drag this out. Right, which means we've only gone and swept for liquidity. Right? We've struggled to break through this level, time again. What we've now done is we've consolidated sideways, and we now have another delta situation. So what we now have is we've actually got a positive delta on this currently, right? And this is where we're at, I think, today. Right? So we've now got this positive delta, right? We've had these negative deltas then. But the problem that I have with the positive delta is that the buy-in is currently being done by the retail traders at a level that we expect a sweep of liquidity. And all of this negative delta, right, is downside liquidity. So there's nothing stopping us coming back for a retest down to this level. There's nothing stopping us coming back for a retest down to this level, right? And ultimately, if you think of the number of stop losses, the number of positions that we've got overall, there's nothing stopping us coming all the way back down even deeper, right? I personally don't like this one the same. Probably like the middle one, the middle option, the most in this scenario. Now, the reason that this is, again, kind of lack of interest for me is that, one, I don't need a position, right? Just not interested in a position. There's better risk management, kind of point of views that I can take, on something like Euro or Aussie and do this kind of day in, day out, right? There's easier ways to make money in that sense. A couple of things that I still don't like is obviously open interest is still dropping off, right? Buying is still dropping down and the sells are still rising. Now, all of this at this position means that the people currently in control are the institutional players that are selling what they bought at discount back to retail at the premiums, right? With one hell of a liquidity block in, down, and around this as a situation. So, if I get rid of this tool, let me get rid of this one. Let me get rid of the footprints and the cloud, and then I'm just going to put the Mayfair 1 position on. Now, in terms of what we currently see, right, this large box where the buy-in technically should be done, could be done, right, we've got to look at a 12-year move or 11-year move, right, whatever it was from nothing through to the high. It's basically been soaked up by this little bit of buy-in here. I just personally, I don't buy into that, right? There's not enough gone on there. We've got gaps all the way down here. Right? We've got a liquidity forming, in and around that 40 level again, right? So for me, 40 to 36 is probably the value area as a whole. Then we've obviously got, massive liquidity down and around this level, which is, under 24K, let's call it. And therefore, what I'm seeing right now is, no change, right? And I keep saying no change because there's no change in what I'm actually seeing. We're at this liquidity sweep level, liquidity to the downside. We've got definitely a 46 down to 41.5, right, in terms of an area of interest. So even with the best will in the world, I kind of see this move down, right? Now, let's just assume that one of the counts that I saw yesterday, I think it was from one of the members, seeing it count something like this, right? One, two, 3, 4, 5, right? The issue that I have with this, right, is that if this is a 1 and this is the 2, seeing this as a 3 on the size and scale that we're talking about, right, we would basically have this 3, right? Now we can hyperextend this and we can say, I think it was something around, um, I think it was something like 81, 82K, right? So let's just assume now that this gives us a 3, right? Look at the gap that we've got from the 1 high to where 3 would actually technically end, right? Would mean that we'd have a very shallow 4. With a very shallow 4, right, we're very likely to truncate again 5, right? So if we truncate again 5, we're probably unlikely to see 100K, right, as a 3, 4, 5 move on what I would class as a super cycle. Right? Because at this particular point, we talked about this potentially being the monthly 1, monthly 2, monthly 3. We can't break into the territory 1, right, which obviously is a big problem. We then come down, let's just say we go sideways and we pop up. We're only talking 100K. That would put us at a monthly 5, right? And the liquidity is sitting all the way back down there, right? So even with the best willing in the world, the truth is for me, the risk reward factor is almost non-existent, right? Even with the best outcome and the best chance and the best moves and everything else, than something that I've never seen in 25 years. I'm saying the risk reward is still under a 2-to-1 trade, right? That's something I can do tomorrow morning on you, right? I could do that before 9 o'clock in the morning. So, in terms of the value in this, there kind of isn't any yet, right? And for me personally, what I'm seeking for, as a professional trader, I'm looking for something that gives me an edge. I'm looking for that insight that gives me, an advantage that I can take advantage of to actually make money out of trading this, right? And right now, I'm not seeing it in terms of the current price. I'm not seeing it in the price action. I'm not seeing it in the COT data. I'm not seeing it, kind of anywhere yet. So when I put all this together, everything that I've just covered, everything that I've just gone over, right? The rationale for me is majority of retail are long. Liquidity is down low. If we do go up, not down, right, we kind of almost shooting ourselves in the foot, not just on a medium term scale, but on a very, very large term scale. Because what we're talking about is a move that we would see. Let's just say this plays out at the end of 2025. We're talking about a move that's taken 16 years to complete a cycle that hasn't really, really breached 100K, right? That's going to be a negative impact for Bitcoin, for the foreseeable future, right? This for me is what I've said about things like regulation coming in, someone like the World Economic Forum kind of putting their hands up and saying, hey, we're behind it, right? Something kind of doesn't add up. Right? So for me, the best kind of outcome for all of this is that we actually get a half decent pullback. This isn't a motive move, right? If we were still corrective and we come down for C, at that particular point, we could probably clear 100K pretty easily on that next swing up, right? So again, part of the reason that I'm seeing what I'm seeing is, I think just from the experience perspective, there's too many if, buts, and maybes in this scenario being, a plausible outcome. And therefore, look, it's just how I'm seeing the charts, what I'm seeing on the charts, right? So when I combine everything from CVD, the Elliott moves, I'm looking at then ultimately, Wyckoff situations and so on. When I bring all this back to the fundamentals, right, regardless of what stochastic is saying, right, that can change ultimately day by day, hour by hour, week by week. It's also lagging, right? Everything is currently pointing that sentiment retail up, right, which is never a good sign, grand scheme of things. We're at this level of liquidity, and what we're in right now, right, is we're actually having a drop and a retest. And currently, just in the simple terms, we've got our high, we've got our low, we've got a lower high, right, followed by a lower low. That lower low changes the structure, right? And therefore, we're currently in a situation where technically we are filling the wick on a bigger time frame. This is a weekly. Let's stick this out to a monthly, right? We're currently filling the wick on that time frame, right? And if we're not on that time frame, I'll jump on another time frame again because the wick, the wick is up there, right? This for me doesn't fill me with confidence after this type of move. There's too much of a gap. There's too much liquidity, right? And at the moment, we're kind of busy going pretty much nowhere, right? 3 months, there we go. Probably this one being that wick, yeah, up, down, closed. So this one being the wick. This is a 3 monthly candle. Let's look at the 3 monthly stochastic and just see what we've got from that particular point. And a 3 monthly stochastic, we've actually got a situation where we're going into overbought, as a whole. So I think for me, just kind of reinforcing what I've talked about these last year or more. In terms of nothing's really changed from my bias. Nothing's convinced me that we're off to 100k or more. And therefore, for me, look, guys, this is what I'm looking at. If you want to be long, if you want to buy at this level, crack on, be my guest. But for me, I'm not really there to endorse what you're looking at in terms of a long. If you want to take it, go for it. But yeah, it's just not a trade for me. All right. So anyway, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thanks for watching this, guys. I'll see you on the next stream. Cheers up.